All right, welcome. This is my presentation on the American education system, which really goes out to more than that, but I live in America, so I'm focused on that. The School of Lucifer, aka the American education system. Europa, United Nations, UNESCO, SICUS, Communism, One World Order, LGBT, the State, Hegelian Dialectic, St. John's Cathedral, Freemasonry, World Core Curriculum, Theosophy, Lucifer Publishing Company, the Declaration of Interdependence. And now we go right on in. This is going to get really deep, really quick, and really religious, okay? There's a reason why I'm going religious with this, because really, there's no such thing as secularism. I don't know why people think that that's a thing, but if that's your belief, so be it. Now, the people that run things, the people that start governments, typically are very, very religious. The reason why I'm opening up with Europa is because I'm going to go right on into the European Union, and also, that is if I can speak correctly, and also the United Nations, okay? This is very brief as far as these deities I'm going to show you, then I'm going to go right into it. There's a reason why I'm doing this groundwork on deities. I need you to understand that all ancient religion is allegory. It's just allegory. It doesn't necessarily matter if the people existed, which in a lot of cases, a regular person did exist that inspired the allegory. However, allegory is the key. You can have multiple deities that have the same fundamental allegorical representation that people worship, okay? So starting out, Europa. Zeus loved her, and turning himself into a tame bull, he mounted her on his back and conveyed her through the sea. Now, the story is he takes her to Crete and rapes her and makes a bunch of kids, or some kids, right? It's all allegory. And we'll get into that in a second, okay? On who Europa really is. El, which is a Semitic deity. El, Father of Heaven, aka Saturn, and his major son, Hadad, Father of Earth, aka Jupiter, are symbolized both by the bull, and both wear bull horns on their headdresses. In the picture, you can see Europa on the bull. It's allegory. The bull is really Nimrod. The bull is really Marduk, or Baal, or whatever you want to call it. It's the same thing, okay? On the left there, you see Hadad, which is a Semitic deity, which is the god of lightning, okay? Baal, the god of lightning, represented as a bull. Yahweh, god of lightning. Zeus, god of lightning. Jupiter, god of lightning. Now, the three on the left are Semitic, and then you got Zeus, which is Greek, and then you got Jupiter, which is Roman, right? So, when you have Semitic, see, this is what confuses people so much about religion. What's so hard for people to grasp is migration, okay? If you had somebody, for example, who was Semitic and worshiped Baal and the bull, and then later on they were Hellenized by the Greeks, you can basically interchange Zeus with Baal. Now that same person can worship the same deity in allegorical representation, even though it's technically a different person or a different deity, okay? That might seem confusing, but that's just the way ancient religion is. It's allegorical. Everything matters in allegory. The way they're posed, what they're holding, the symbols. Stuff represents things. It's not just mindless bullshit. It's not some random artwork that people do, okay? So, like I said, El, Father of Heaven, Saturn, and his major son, Hadad, Father of Earth, Jupiter. So I'll get back to Europa in a second. I'm going to roll right with the males, and then I'll go right with the females, okay? So, you got Hadad, Baal, Yahweh, Zeus, and Jupiter. So at this point, if you are into theology and things of that nature, you're probably upset right now with what I'm saying, okay? This isn't a debate on whether or not Baal and Yahweh can be compared, okay? It's not central to my argument, and that would have to be a separate debate. This is not a theological debate. Even if you disagree and say that, no, Yahweh is the real, true God of Abraham and Jacob and all that, that's fine. That's not what this is about right now, okay? And if you want to go there, in my opinion, Baal and Yahweh, in the story of Elijah was the story of there could only be room for one when you're building a monotheistic religion. But that, like I said, is something different. Fundamentally, you have the same deities across the board, which in my opinion is why people get so confused with religion until they really delve into it. It's like a language. Now, these people all have daddies who all have similar characteristics, okay? So the daddy of Zeus, for example, is Cronus. The daddy of Jupiter, Saturn. The daddy of the Semitic, excuse me, I went too far ahead. The daddy of the Semitic deities, the daddy of Yahweh and Baal, is called El, aka El Shaddai. Okay? Now, this is why it's confusing as well. In the Old Testament, as they call it, is actually a collection of many Semitic authors. It's not just one Semitic author. One Semitic author, in my opinion, is speaking about Baal. One might be talking about Yahweh. One might be talking crap about Baal and saying that Yahweh is the real one. One might be talking about Hadad. One might be talking about El Shaddai and not even talking about the son, Yahweh, Baal, or Hadad. Okay? So, these are the daddies right here. These are child-killing, sacrificing deities. So, you can have a chicken or the egg argument if you want to. You can say that these deities came along, or at some point there was an original one, and it inspired people to sacrifice their children to him. Or, you could say that the type of people who like to sacrifice their children shape their deities as such. In my opinion, that's an argument that doesn't matter. Okay, you heard me saying a lot of opinion, okay? We're getting ready to get into facts. Okay? Herodotus, and as you can see Europa sitting on the bull, right? Obvious religious allegory. 450 BC said, her story was allegorical. The bull god actually represented her Cretan kidnappers, all right? We know that Phoenicians worship the bull god El. Okay, they're already right there. We're exposing that El is also the bull god of the Semites, where they sacrifice children to. Okay? We know that Phoenicians worship the bull god El, and at least one Phoenician nation really did use an allegorical virgin as their symbolic figurehead. The Virgin of Israel, Jeremiah 18:13 and Amos 5:2. Now, the word used, of course, in those verses, it's called, I forgot what it's called. It's called Belula or whatever it's called. It's not Alma, like it's said in Isaiah, that people claim is said about Jesus. It's a different word, different language, of course. So, now we're going to get into the males. You see Semiramis and Nimrod? Nimrod also is the sun god. He's represented as Tur, T-U-R, the bull. Okay? It also has to do with zodiac, but I'm not getting into all that crap. I just need you to have some fundamental, basic perspective on what allegory is and how religious people are. All right? You see Semiramis with that moon and crescent on her head? She represents the moon. He represents the sun. That's Semiramis. Okay? Semiramis is the one that started the mystery schools in Babylon. which had sacred geometry and witch language and witchcraft and all that stuff. And the so-called story of the stars, where one day an antichrist is going to come and hand over the power to the serpent and all this BS. Okay. Luciferianism, by the way, is very ancient and way older than the Bible. At least way older than Christianity. I can guarantee you that. All right. Now, the same thing as Semiramis, that's the Babylonian version. Who was captive in Babylon and readapted their entire religion to the mystery schools of Babylon and created something called the Sanhedrin and the Talmud? The Jews. So as you can see, Asherah, Astarte, that is the Semitic version of Semiramis. You see that moon crescent? Columbia is fundamentally the same thing, but for America. It's a made-up deity for America. It's the same difference. Sophia, aka wisdom. Remember, they're bearing the light. They're bearing the light and the knowledge of Lucifer, who hasn't always been called Lucifer. At one point, he was called Nimrod, or whatever you want to say. All right? Sophia is for the Greeks. It's the same difference. Bavaria was for Germany. Guadalupe, see her standing in that moon crescent? That's for Mexicans. In Mexico, Isis, all right? Egypt, Mary with the 12 stars above her head, standing on the world, right? That is not what you think it is. Have you ever wondered why Catholics worship Mary? It's because Catholicism was the power structure of Rome. It was Mystery Babylon of its day. They called them Pharisees, the ones that brought the Babylonian, Semiramis, and Nimrod mystery schools. They were called Pharisees. Okay? They worship Semiramis, aka Bavaria, aka Guadalupe, aka Isis, aka Mary. That's why you get Mary worship in Catholicism, because Catholicism is certainly not Christianity. It's obviously a mystery school religion. And that will probably be my next presentation, completely airing out the Catholic Church. The European Union flag. All right, this is Arsene Heights, however you say his name. I just don't care. Quote, inspired by the 12-star halo of the Virgin Mary, the Queen of Heaven of the Book of Revelation, often portrayed, there's another clue of the Book of Revelation, often portrayed in Roman Catholic art, which can be seen in the rose window of the Council of Europe donated to the Strasbourg Cathedral in 1953. Indeed, he proposed a design with, quote, a crown of 12 golden stars with 5 rays. All right? Their points not touching. So, move that. So what do we have? We have the European Union flag based on Semiramis worship, Babylonian mystery school worship, fundamentally and allegorically, man, I can't even speak to that. So, Pope John Paul II dedicated Europe under Mary. Quote, he placed Europe in Mary's hands so that it will become a symphony of nations committed to building together the civilization of love and peace. Okay, I gotta say that again. Listen to this and tell me if it's Mary of the Bible or if this is Semiramis, who spoke the story of the stars of consolidating everything into a one world order. All right? What was Nimrod and Semiramis doing? Trying to create a one world order, which is at the core of the mystery school religion. These people you see here, these popes, these are mystery school priests. These are not Christians. I don't even think people even are mistaken that at this point. Listen to this. Become a symphony of nations committed to building together the civilization of love and peace. Is there anything different between that and what Nimrod was doing? No. It's a Luciferian objective. By Luciferian, I mean worshiping knowledge, the worship of light, the belief that you can become God by any means necessary. All right? Benedict the 16th made unification of Europe under Mary his main objective. Okay? AKA Semiramis, more importantly. I think what was it, 1821, Kalman Rothschild came to take over the Vatican finances. By 1823, he had full control of it. National Anthem of Europe, written by Friedrich Schiller. Joy, beautiful spark of divinity. Daughter from Elysium, we enter drunk with fire. Heavenly one, thy sanctuary, your magic binds again. This is Semiramis worship. What is Elysium? It is the so-called heaven where, who is it? Europa is. And who runs Elysium? Cronus. The people who started Europe obviously started Europe on mystery school philosophy. Obviously. There she blows. So Freemasonry, which is yet another secret society, yet another mystery school style secret society, which at its core is Judaism, aka a Babylonian version of Judaism, aka Mystery Babylon. It's the same thing. So you've got a Babylonian style Semiramis worshipping Freemason in France sending over this statue to Freemasons of America. Clearly, Semiramis bearing the torch of Lucifer, aka the torch of light, aka the torch of knowledge and reason. The reason why they worship the sun in ancient Egypt is because it's allegory. The everyday citizens worship the sun and they thought they were worshiping a physical sun. The high-level priest understood that it was allegory representing the ultimate intellect of the human mind because they believe the human mind can conquer this planet. It's the opposite of humble. All right? European Council. You see how it's shaped like an eye with those 12 stars? All seeing eye symbology, the eye of Nimrod, aka the eye of Lucifer, the eye of Osiris, whatever you want to say. It's fundamentally the same thing. That's my main lesson. Now I'm gonna jump right into George Hegel. George Hegel is a philosopher who has done a lot of work. Okay, so for me to talk about George Hegel in just one frame, obviously the guy has a huge amount of work, but I'm focused on what they call the Hegelian dialectic, right? It's something that has happened with world controllers in the past, but this man articulated it so well that people have taken it and ran with it, all right? So this is the basis for the idea. The idea is that human beings by nature assume that everything is real, for one. So they automatically assume that random issues pop up in humanity, and then random opposition pops up to that. And then, since we have a conflict, we need to come to a resolution. They also call it conflict resolution, right? So the natural human being thinks, hey, problems arise. There's counteractive stuff to that problem. And then we just have to come meet in the middle, you know? People think that this is how life works. And generally, it just doesn't. Okay? This is why they say the world is a stage, all right? So you have to present a thesis, then you have to present an antithesis to that thesis in order to achieve the synthesis that you wanted from the start. Okay? So if they wanted a United Nations, so I'm going to go into a couple examples. Obviously, with the example of World War II, I could have written Palestine in the synthesis. World War II was one of the most debated and insanely guised areas of history ever. It's very debatable. There's so much information in it. It's fractal. It's insane. But it is interesting. So you've got the Allied powers, then you've got the axis of evil, and then you got the United Nations, which the United Nations and Palestine was the goal the whole time. So they invented both sides of that conflict. All right? Same thing with the Napoleonic Wars. In that case, you had one person financing France and Britain. The Rothschild dynasty personally funded France and Britain during the time of the Napoleonic Wars. All they had to do was give more money to Britain to control them winning. All right? They wanted the Congress of Vienna. So what did they do? They got Britain and others, France and others, and then they came to a synthesis, the Congress of Vienna. So this is a very, very basic breakdown of what I call the Hegelian dialectic, okay? So when I say that these gatekeepers like Ben Shapiro and Jordan Peterson and all these people, they, and Milo and whoever else, they want to keep you part of a package deal. On one end, on the Democratic side, you're basically a baby killer. You're this, you're that. You know, if you're a Republican, you got to be pro-Israel and you got to be pro-war. They're building package deals, and they want to keep people in those package deals. What those package deals really are Hegelian dialectics that have been set up. They want to keep you in a Hegelian trap. All right? Wrong way. So, as you can see, I didn't even write the synthesis. The thesis, the antithesis, the synthesis. The synthesis in this case could very well just be maintaining the status quo. But I'm not going to go in on that because this isn't a political thing. I need you to understand the Hegelian dialect, which is how they even created the United Nations. All right? Again, something else you're not going to learn in school. So, here we go. 1945. Representatives from 50 countries met in San Francisco, aka Sir Francis, at the United Nations Conference to draw up the charter and sign. There's no way that was a coincidence that they picked San Francisco to sign that. Let me show you. This is St. Francis of Assisi, right? Who coincidentally ended up becoming the patron saint of the UN. What are the odds? You signed the charter at Sir Francis, and now Sir Francis is the patron saint of the UN? What is the connection there? Founder of the Franciscan Orders of the Friars Minor, Ordo Fratrum Minorum, the Women's Order of St. Clare. These are basically just mini secret societies. The Poor Clares and the Lay Third Order. In 1979, Pope John Paul II recognized him as the patron saint of ecology. Excuse me. All right. So, we've got St. Francis. We got the UN charter being signed at Sir Francis. Okay? We'll come back to that. June 26, 1945, the charter was signed. Poland was later 51st. October 24th, 1945, it's officially brought in and celebrated annually. Arthur Ballflower is the one that drew the original outline in the SPR, the Society for Psychical Research, right? Who is Arthur Ballflower? Ballflower? This is Arthur. And what you're seeing is potentially the most controversial and important document in the past 3 centuries. Okay? If you watch that special, it was like a 45-minute special, art special or something with Jacob Rothschild. He has this in glass, and he spoke about it for a few minutes. So as you can see, it's addressed directly to Lord Rothschild. And what this is they were operating from, for one, they owned the media in America at the time. And basically, Germany was going to lose this war if they brought America into this war. So they said, hey, give us Britain. Excuse me. They said, hey, Britain, give us Palestine, and we will get our people, aka America and the rest of them, to jump in this war and win the war for you. Okay? They said, all right. This is all illegal, by the way. Britain didn't have right to give up that land. This is what the World War I and II was all about. And I can prove that, but I'm not going to do that today. That's not what this is about. I'm only showing you who Arthur is. And I'm not even going to read this whole thing. I have much pleasure in conveying to you, on behalf of His Majesty's government, the following declaration of sympathy with Jewish Zionist aspirations, which has been submitted to and approved by the cabinet. Okay? So, they gave Palestine to them. In return, they had to bring America, which they owned, into the war. Which, of course, they didn't give a damn about our citizens dying in the war. Of course not. So, let's move on from this. Alger Hiss and Joseph A. Johnson took Wallflower's outline to help write the United Nations Charter. Too bad he got busted for being a communist. In 1949, the first trial resulted in a hung jury, but in 1950, Hiss was convicted. On January 21st, 1950, he was sentenced to 5 years in prison, ending an important case that helped further confirm the increasing penetration of the U.S. government by the Soviets during the Cold War. And of course, the Soviets were the communists. All right? You're talking about communist spies who's helping to write this charter, who would end up running the department, not the department, end up running education in most of the world. All right? Joseph A. Johnson became the secretary of the Bilderberg starting in 1954. The UN Charter was also based on the Constitution of Russia, Communist Russia, and the Communist Manifesto, which itself was based on Plato's The Republic, written by Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels in 1848. So the UN Charter is based on communism. The goal is a one-world socialist government. Okay? I'll show you. First Secretary General of the UN was Trygve Lie, high-ranking official of Norway's Social Democratic Labour Party, offshoot of Third Communist International. I'm showing you straight up. These are not random names, you guys. These are the people who built the UN. I'm showing you that it was built by communists. Dag Hammarskjöld, which is a big name, Swedish socialist, was the Secretary General and openly pushed communism. Youth Ant, Marxist, was third Secretary General and openly stated this, quote, World Federalist. Man, just think about that word. Really think about that. I didn't really think about that. The word World Federalist, because remember when the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists were battling in America for the Constitution they were going to write? And if the Federalists had it their way, we would just have one big federal government. And it was the Anti-Federalists that pushed and made it to where we at least had states too. That's what it really should have been. It's just all states. Right? And if it wasn't for the Anti-Federalists pushing, we would have never gotten the Bill of Rights. Never would have got the Bill of Rights. So think about that. World Federalist. That tells you their whole plan right there. Federalize and unify each section of the world and then unify all those unified sections. I see that in this one word right here. World Federalists. That says so much. Damn, I really didn't think about it on that level, but that says a lot. World Federalists? You might as well call yourself a globalist. So, World Federalists hold before us a vision of unified mankind living in peace under a just world order. The heart of their program, a world under law, is realistic and attainable. Okay? Very encouraging for us commies to hear that. The creation of an authoritative, all-powerful world order is the ultimate aim towards which we must strive. Okay, Churchill, mega NWO pusher. Okay, nations must unite in a world government or perish. Charles de Gaulle. And I'm not going to do a bunch of quotes on the New World Order. I could spend 7 hours straight just quoting officials on the New World Order. This is not some shit that someone made up, okay? Other than the people who are fomenting it. The UN has external bodies that are used to control the globe. So think of it like this. You think of it like your cell phone, and you got apps. You got an app when you want to do a calculation. You got an app when you want to do this. You got an app when you want to look at the maps, or you got the UN is the central unit, and then they have different apps or different sections, right? So they got the UNDP. I'm not going to read all this, but they got the UNDP, United Nations Development Program, with their global goals. They got the FAO with their World Food Plan. They got a World this plan, World that plan, World Health Organization with a World Health Plan, and most importantly, we have arrived at UNESCO, the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization has a World Literacy Plan. The ILO, World Employment Plan, and so on and so forth. You can understand the gist of it right there. All right. So now I'm going to show you the world religion they created. I don't know if you realize this, but part of the package of this whole UN thing was creating a one world religion. They had to create a temple for that religion. All right. The temple's called the Temple of Understanding. All right. The organization was founded in 1960 by a pioneering visionary, Juliet Hollister, with the support of a distinguished group of founding friends, including Eleanor Roosevelt, Ecumenical Patriarch Athenagoras, Dr. Savapali, I'm sorry, but I'm not trying to be rude to anybody's religion or nationality, but I'm not very good at pronouncing stuff. Sir, I wasn't trying to disrespect a nation or religion, okay? Sorry. Sir Zafrullah Khan, H.H. Pope John the 13th, Anwar Sadat, and H.H. the 14th Dalai Lama, amongst others, all right? You get it. They're getting different people from around the world to give credence to this Temple of Understanding. Juliet Hollister with her good friend Barbara Marx Hubbard at a 97 Stanford University planning conference during United Religions Initiative's formation. To acquaint you with Barbara Marx, here we go. Interesting middle name, by the way, Marx. 1/4 of humanity must be eliminated from the social body. We are in charge of God's selection process for planet Earth. He selects, we destroy. We are the riders of the pale horse, death. Wonderful lady, right? Jean Houston. The illuminated ones can take any form, a man, a woman, a child, an elder, even a dog. It's not inconsequential that the English language allows for the dyslexia of the spelling of the word dog. God spelled backwards. This is a goof named Jean Houston, who's called the psychic of the White House. They wouldn't make a move without consulting her. She would consult the zodiac and say the moon is in this phase, so go ahead and do this and that, and go ahead and sign this legislation because it's this and that. Because these religious freaking weirdos believe in all that nonsense, okay? So, you have the Temple of Understanding, right? There's a reason I had Jean Houston here. I had a quote where she spoke about Temple of Understanding. I can't find that book now. So I just can't put it in there. And I'm not going to say the quote because that's just not fair if I can't prove it, all right? So, this whole Temple of Understanding. Eleanor Roosevelt was in temple membership, right? So what they did was the temple is headquartered in St. John's Cathedral in New York. In 1925, the cathedral was built by Freemasons, and featured on Masonic World magazine. So as you can see, you see this out front. See Lucifer, right? See Pan down here with his horns or something. So as you can see, they were very proud of this cathedral they built. For those of you that don't know, the Freemasons built all these cathedrals that are in our country. They were the new so-called builders. They stole mystery school knowledge from Babylon and all that, stole what they could from ancient Egypt, and try to create their own builders. The original so-called builders were called stonemasons, and they built the pyramids. So these people are imitations of the original builders. And those original builders were very, very dark-skinned. I just have to tell the truth. It was stolen from them. I can't just skip over the truth. I'm sorry. You can see the pillars of Jachin and Boaz. All right. Now, this is the architecture for St. John Divine's church. So as you can see with these pillars, you can see the destruction of the towers, which has already come in, right? You can see the destruction in Armageddon happening. You see the Antichrist being born. Got some mummy-like shit going on here. I'm not a master of symbology. I can't break all this down. I'm not going to pretend to, okay? This is clearly the Kabbalah tree of life. I can look at this and tell you beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is not a Christian church. This is a mystery school church based on the Kabbalah. The Kabbalah is the heart of Freemasonry. Freemasons built this damn thing. Okay? See them standing on these pillars? Now, 1930, New York Times publisher Adolph Ox donates, or however you say it, donates 2 12-foot menorahs to flank the high altar. What is that doing in a Christian church? If it's Christian. What is that doing in a Christian church if it's Christian? What does the Kabbalah have to do with the building of this church? Now, remember, this is the official headquarters for the religion of the world. Every year since 1990, the Cathedral of St. John Divine, at the cathedral's Halloween extravaganza, visitors are greeted by a ghoul playing the cello at a giant quivering spider hanging on the rose window. The evening begins with a screening of the silent classic Nosferatu. That year it was. So some sort of silent classic. I wouldn't be surprised if they played Metropolis on another year. Whose score is performed on the great organ. After the final credits, the ghouls emerge one by one. A gang of macabre creatures step out of Helmuth, engulfed in fog, and process down the central nave of the cathedral as the organ pipes fill the space with a loud, devilish tune. You have to literally be retarded to think this is Christianity. Okay? Does that look like Christianity to you? If it does, oh my goodness. You're literally retarded. How did your mom or your handler allow you to get on the internet and watch this fucking video if you think this is Christianity? Does that look like Christianity? Does this look like Christianity? This is obviously Baal worship. It's fundamental. The mystery schools worship Baal and Semiramis, aka Mary and all that. This right here is clearly Baal worship, you guys. It's allegory. They don't really think this guy is a bull. They're worshiping what it represents. This is obviously a direct blasphemy of Jesus Christ. Okay, you got a dead skeleton. That's obvious as day. You can call it what you want to call it. If you think that this is a Christian church, you're dead wrong. Not only are you dead wrong, you're headed for death. Same cathedral, y'all. Edwin Sandy's Christa, a sculpture of a female Christ on the crucifix, is displayed during Holy Week and taken down after causing a small, they say a small but historical controversy. The piece returned in 2006. This is grotesque, you guys. Obviously, this is blasphemy, okay? Obviously. So what else do we have here? We have a pyramid with a, what do we have? Kabbalah math right there on the window. Does that look like a Christian church to you? If it does, you're mistaken. All right, here we go. Now what we have is, quote, St. John the Divine has broken ground in its welcome to people who are gay or transgendered, and was the first Anglican church in the diocese to bless a marriage between two gay parishioners. I'm about to click on the air right now because it's getting hot in here. If the noise is too loud, I might have to turn it back off. Okay? St. John the Divine has also broken ground in its welcome to people who are gay or transgendered, and was the first Anglican church in the diocese to bless a marriage between two gay parishioners. Now, do you see the architecture? Do you see it? If you knew what you were talking about back in a long time ago, you could have predicted it. It's right in their architecture, you guys. Remember, this is the official headquarters for the world religion. Okay? So, as you can see on the left, they're doing a pagan witch coven ceremony dedicated to Lucifer called Lucia. You see the picture on the right there, which is straight out of Sweden, where they're still doing pagan rituals to this day. It's called Lucia, the bearer of light. Along midsummer, the Lucia celebrations represent one of the foremost cultural traditions in Sweden, with their clear reference to life in the peasant communities in old, darkness and light, cold and warmth. You see the head dress with the candles? You see the white robes with the red sash, or whatever it's called, or red belt? This is the headquarters, all right, for the world religion. 1984, the cathedral hosts the first annual Feast of Saint Francis and Blessing of the Animals. The service includes, and again, if you're into theology, I don't even need to tell you how ridiculous this is. The service includes the music of artists and resident Paul Winter and Paul Haley's Miss Gaia Earth Mass. St. Francis Day continues to be one of the largest services at the cathedral, drawing visitors from all over the world. This is just ridiculous. Gotta call it what it is, man. In a sermon on another St. Francis of Assisi ceremony, Gore called on the congregants to recognize that God is not separate from the earth. There goes that Mother Gaia, Mother Earth shit. Obviously not Christianity. Okay? Here's Madame L'Engle's courses given inside the cathedral. She's also one of the founders of the temple. Her teachings include shamanism, out-of-body experiences, astral projection, tarot methods of fortune-telling, earth worship, psychic abilities, yoga, tantric yoga, and astrology. Okay? In Kenneth Graham's The Wind in the Willows, when Mole and Rat had the numinous experience of their vision of the great god Pan, That opened the gates of another heaven for me, too. And surely Christ was there. She's relating the great god Pan to Christ, which is a zodiac thing that has to do with Saturn. It's essentially a horned god that will have sex with anything, including animals. Alright? She's the one that wrote this whole Wrinkle in Time thing. Oh, what a wonderful, cherished author of our time. She's shit, and she's worthless. That's just my opinion. Now, this is in that cathedral still. He, Dr. James Kowalski, the dean of St. John Divine, called Mr. Zhu a global citizen. Okay, look at the terminology, y'all. For one, this is a phoenix. This is mystery school symbology. In order to destroy the old order, in order for a new order to be born, you have to destroy the old one, and the new order is reborn in the ashes. They put this phoenix right in a so-called Christian church to represent the burning down of the old order. Now look what the dean of St. John Divine called Mr. Zhu. A global citizen who sees from this debris the human condition. This beautiful, even sacred. He used the word sacred. This is a so-called dean of a Christian church calling this sacred. You gotta listen to the words. Okay? This beautiful, even sacred installation has transformational powers. Obviously acknowledging that the phoenix is transformational. It's allegory. These people don't believe that that's a real phoenix flying around in there. They are worshiping what it represents. And they even admitted that it's sacred. These people are highly, 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 highly religious. You have to understand that. Okay? Now, Mr. Mueller. Not the Mueller you heard about from the Mueller report and all that crap. Another psyop just to distract you and take you on a wild goose chase to Russia when it's really somewhere else. But that's another story. Robert Mueller, the Undersecretary General for the UN for 41 years. He was called the philosopher of the UN. We must strive as quickly as possible to a one-world government, a one-world religion, under a one-world leader. So there you have it, a one-world leader. So you've got a government, a religion, and a leader. All right? This is the so-called philosopher of the UN for 41 years, you guys. By the way, have you ever heard of World Core Curriculum or Core Curriculum? He wrote it. Okay? Now, you got to listen to the terminology, you guys. This is not minor, all right? Listen to the terminology. It's called New Genesis. Okay? Shaping a global spirituality, okay? Obviously, he means exactly what he says he means. New Genesis, shaping a global spirituality. What we have here is the Luciferian Genesis, you guys. Okay? Quote, peace will be impossible without the taming of fundamentalism through a united religion that professes faithfulness only to the global spirituality and to the health of this planet. Tying it into environmentalism. Very slick. Quote, my personal dream is to get a tremendous alliance between all the major religions in the UN. You see, this rhetoric matches this title, New Genesis and Shaping a Global Spirituality. This is Luciferianism, point blank, period. Robert Mueller created World Core Curriculum and is known throughout the world as the father of global education. There are 29 Robert Mueller schools around the world, with more being established every year. The World Core Curriculum earned him the UNESCO Peace Education Prize in 1989. Based on this curriculum and his devotion to good causes, Dr. Mueller has recently drawn up, oh, how convenient, he also did the framework for world media coverage as a public service. How sweet of him. As well as a framework for planetary and cosmic consciousness. Whoa. And a framework for the arts and culture. That just blew my mind. How the hell are you going to blow your own mind in your own damn presentation? What the fuck is wrong with me? Framework for planetary and cosmic consciousness. Do you realize what that is? That's the spinning globe lie. They have to control cosmic and planetary consciousness. Damn. No wonder they put those globes in every school. Damn. Framework for planetary and cosmic consciousness. Most importantly, the World Core Curriculum, all right? There you go. And you see a picture right there, the Robert Mueller School, the World Core Curriculum Manual. So here we go. World Core distributes from the UN to all the nations to use as the framework for their school's curriculum. Okay? Here goes some quotes from Mueller. We must steer our children towards global citizenship, Earth-centered beliefs, socialist values, and the collective mindset, which is becoming a requirement for the 21st century workforce. The hiccup. So, global citizenship, Earth-centered beliefs, socialist values, collective mindset. What is communism, you guys? Communityism. The collective versus the individual. Okay? Quote, a World Core curriculum might seem utopian. There's that word, utopian, an obvious Marxist. A World Core curriculum might seem utopian today. By the end of the year 2000, it'll be a down-to-earth daily reality in all the schools of the world. So as you can see, they were trying to get everybody on this by the year 2000. It took them till 2012. To be brutally honest, that's not far off from their mark. That's only 12 years off from their mark. They were only 12 years late. That's not too bad when you're engineering a world Luciferian agenda. So it's probably the first and last type of acknowledgement or props I'll ever give these bastards. Quote, this is important, you guys. The underlying philosophy. Underlying philosophy. Oh, so what's it really about? The underlying philosophy upon which the Robert Mueller School is based will be found in the teachings set forth in the books of Alice A. Bailey by the Tibetan teacher Dewal Kul. The school is now certified as a United Nations associated school providing education for international cooperation and peace. Now, obviously, there's a question at hand. Who in the mother F is Alice A. Bailey? Who in the mother F is the Tibetan teacher Dewal Kul? We will go there. But first, his testament to the UN. Quote, and again, I'm driving it home and showing you that these people are not what you perceive secularism to be. There really isn't. I don't even know secularism exists, you guys. Check this out. No human force will ever be able to destroy the United Nations, for the United Nations is not a mere building or a mere idea. It is not a man-made creation. The United Nations is the vision light of the absolute supreme, which is slowly, steadily, and unerringly illuminating the ignorance, the night of our human life, the divine success and supreme, you hear these words? Divine, supreme, illuminating. The divine success and supreme progress of the United Nations is bound to become a reality. At his choice hour, the absolute supreme will ring his own victory bell here on earth through the loving and serving heart of the United Nations. Whoa! They're such hardcore religious zealots. They created this whole UN for the absolute supreme, whoever that is, at his choice hour. Do you think they're talking about Jesus? Because I can guarantee you they're not. I guarantee you that. And I'm about to prove it. We must also hope that the Pope will come before the year 2000 to the United Nations, speak for all the religions and spiritualities on this planet, and give the world the religious view of how the third millennium should be a spiritual millennium. A millennium which will see the integration and harmony of humanity. Okay? And like I said, the underlying philosophy was based on this woman. Okay, who's this woman? Alice A. Bailey. Teacher and occult writer of like 25 books, right? Attempted suicide as a child at the age of 5, 11, and 15. Sounds like a great person to base your school philosophy on, right? What a great decision, right? Basically, her work developed as a duality. Her discipleship service, which included the establishment of an esoteric school, and her initially reluctant agreement to work with a Tibetan, Dawal Kul, and the writing of a series of books presenting the next phase and continuity of the ageless wisdom teaching for the present and immediate future. Blah, 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 a new version of Luciferianism. Basically. Excuse me. So, now it's going to start making some sense and start getting interesting, okay? So check this out. So for one, we're talking about somebody who is continuing the work of theosophy, okay? She was the modern one that Mueller based this stuff on. But what I'm going to do after this is I'm going to go back to who started theosophy. So we are jumping around a bit, all right? So, June 30th, 1895, at 15, she supposedly was visited by a stranger who told her she needed to practice self-control in preparation for a certain work that was planned for her to do. She initially thought it to be Jesus, but later decided for it to be Kuthumi, after she visited the Theosophical building and saw a painting of him on the wall, as you see on the far left there. Theosophists believe that his earlier incarnation was Pythagoras, and another earlier incarnation, Saint Francis of Assisi. Uh-oh. The picture in the middle is Saint Francis of Assisi. Now, the UN was signed at St. Francis. The patron saint is St. Francis. You really think it's a coincidence? Do you really think it's a coincidence? Now we have the philosopher of the UN basing his framework school on somebody who was guiding, basically writing for her, supposedly, St. Francis. So there's an obvious connection of St. Francis to our school system in the UN. It's not a coincidence that they signed that charter in San Francisco. Not at all. On the right there, you can see the logo for Theosophy. Okay, you see the snake with the tail in the mouth, the Ouroboros, the swastika, the hexagram, and you got the Gnostic cross, it looks like. Okay? There is no religion higher than truth, it says. which is another way of saying knowledge, gnosis, like the Gnostics. The Gnostics were Luciferian too. It's the same difference. It's the same shit every time, y'all. So, I'm going to wrap this up here. I'll finish with this. Alice was married to an Episcopalian minister earlier in life, and after it failed, she severed all ties to him in the church and remarried to 32-degree Freemason Foster Bailey. They then started a company called the Lucius Trust in 1922, including the Arcane School, World Goodwill, Triangles, a quarterly magazine called The Beacon, and to manage the business of publishing her occult books. Alice and Foster Bailey founded the Lucifer Publishing Company. They later changed the name to Lucius Publishing Company. There it is. And as you can see, I put a picture of an actual edition when they were still called Lucifer Publishing Company. And they had a spot, what was it, 666 on the United Nations Plaza? Whew. So that's about it for this first part of this breakdown. After that, we'll go right into what she was teaching. Okay? We'll go right into that. So thank you guys for joining me. This is part 1. I'm going to do the next part as soon as possible. Thank you.